If I could start over, I'd stop trying to teach myself everything and blindly believing what my teachers told me. Here's the honest truth about why it's a mistake and what I do instead. I've been doing music now for over a decade, and I can confidently say that a lot of things that I was told to focus on were definitely holding me back. One of the main things I was told to focus on were piano grades. Now, if you don't know, a piano grade is effectively a measure of your current skill level. Of course, if you are more advanced, you'll do better in grades, but that's just surface level. When you say to people what instruments you play, just how many people respond to you with, "What grade are you?" I'm willing to bet that the vast majority have, and it's this that made me believe that I had to chase grades to be considered good. And that is completely not true. What really happened when my teachers pushed me to do grades was I ended up learning pieces which I hated, I ended up procrastinating, and then because of this procrastination, my teachers weren't happy with me because I was not meeting their weekly goals. And overall this just led to additional stress, which I really did not need alongside school. If I had to start learning piano all over again, I'd really just focus on those pieces I had an interest in learning. I think a lot of the pieces which you're forced to play for grades aren't exactly productive, and I think it can lead to a lot of procrastination down the line. Of course, grades are great and they can show you just how much you have progressed, but I think chasing them just to get the grade is not a good way to go. Another thing that we're made to believe when we're just starting out is that we have to practice hours a day, every single day, in order to progress in anything. And to a certain extent, obviously practice does benefit your progress, but I think there are more efficient ways to go about this. Let's say you were given a couple weeks to learn La Campanella, which is an incredibly hard piano piece. Now, how would you go about practicing that? You can either choose A, you do one 1-hour practice session every day leading up to the deadline, or option B, where instead of the 1-hour practice session, you have 4 15-minute practice sessions spread throughout the day. Now, there has been lots of scientific evidence to suggest that splitting that hour practice session into 4 15-minute practice sessions increases your productivity quite drastically. Now, I'm not too sure of the science, but I can say that ever since I've started splitting that 1-hour practice session into 4 15-minute practice sessions, I have been extremely more productive. So in light of this, I would have chosen option B as the correct answer. Another thing that I do differently if I was to start all over again is to stop using those exercise books. You know, the books with hundreds of tiny little exercises and phrases to go through? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. My first piano teacher that I ever had made me work through these books for 45 minutes straight every single week. And as you can imagine, going through these tiny little phrases one by one in this massive book that was like 200 pages long isn't exactly thrilling. I didn't learn much of anything, only that no matter how many weeks I showed up and tried, I was never good enough for my teacher. This led to frustration and a negative feeling towards practice, which of course is not what you want right at the start of your career. Of course, there are things you can learn from these phrases, but I think they're so monotonous and they're so similar that you can learn these way more efficiently with exercises such as Hanon. Just these simple exercises will build that finger independence, which is the main thing that people struggle with when they're starting to learn piano. So what I do differently is at the start of every practice session, I just do maybe 5 to 10 minutes of these simple exercises just to get warmed up, and then I'd move on to the pieces I want to play, rather than just playing through an entire book, 45-minute sessions just every single day, because that is extremely mind-numbing and it will slow your progress. Another really important point to mention is stop playing things faster than you're ready for. It will lead to notes being missed out, rhythms being wrong, and ultimately just mistakes being ingrained, which are incredibly hard to make right when they're already in your muscle memory. This will just slow you down, and it is also very frustrating if you've learnt it wrong and you have to go back and fix it. What I'd do differently if I was to start all over again is I wouldn't rush things. I'd take things slowly and methodically, bar by bar, and make sure the notes are correct and the rhythms and all of that stuff, just because it will save me so much time down the pipeline having to correct all of these errors which have accumulated over time. And once you've got it down slowly, the tempo will come later. So I wouldn't worry about getting it up to speed as fast as possible, because you're just that much more likely to make a mistake. If you found this video useful, I think you'd really like this video where it goes over the fastest method to learn any piece, tried and tested. It works.